building up a platform where hope can
Welcome to the Nikki Clarke Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Clarke, and I am so thrilled to be back with yet another stellar interview. The Nikki Clarke Show is where we celebrate remarkable individuals who are creating opportunities, inspiring resilience, and transforming lives through purpose-driven leadership. And today's guest is Linda Love Lemos, an educator, a speaker, podcaster, author, and Doctor of Education candidate at Northeastern University. Known as the Career Queen, Linda is passionate about empowering first-generation students, professionals, caregivers, and underserved communities to overcome adversity and create meaningful opportunities. As the host of the Linda Love Talks podcast, she has interviewed thought leaders, entrepreneurs, healthcare professionals, changemakers, and the list goes on, fostering authentic conversations that educate, inspire, and empower. And Linda is also the author of the upcoming poetry collection, Resilience with Rhythm, and her personal journey through caregiving, grief, chronic illness, and recovery, which has all strengthened her commitment to helping others lead with resilience, faith, and purpose. So please welcome in joining the amazing Linda Love Lemos to the show. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much. I love being on your show and I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. So Linda, let's get into your journey. Your story is one of resilience and purpose. Tell us about the journey that brought you where you are today.
Well, honestly, my journey has not been an easy journey, but I believe that my journey really does tell the story of being a first generation American and the story of persevering through life's challenges and difficulties. It's about not allowing those difficulties to stop you or to stop you from dreaming and reaching your goal. And
Fantastic.
yes. Mhm.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so with regards to my story, it's interesting story because many people, when they see me today, they see me pursuing a doctorate in education. We all read and see success stories, and most of those stories start in the middle or start at the end. However, they see the degrees, the professional accomplishments, the speaker, the entrepreneur, but what they don't see is the little girl who started working at 13 years old because her family needed the money. They don't see the high school dropout. What they don't see is the reality that many working class families in America face every day. Growing up wasn't easy. It was about survival. And, this little girl who started working at 13 years old because her family needed the money, it's the reality, not just of myself and my family, but it's the reality of many working class family in America that they face every day. And interesting part is that growing up, we weren't talking about college admissions. It was literally our daily lives and our monthly lives was survival. It was about paying the bills. It was for the family getting together during dinner time, and we were talking about how to keep the lights on. I come from a working class family. My grandparents could not read or write. I am the third person in my family to graduate from high school, and I'm the first one to graduate from college. I also come from a long line of house servants and laborers who worked hard but had limited educational opportunities. And like I said, by the time that I was 13, I was out there in the workforce. I was working. I was a grocery cart pusher and a grocery cart bagger. And you know what? I'm very proud of my first job.
Nice.
And it was about helping the family.
It was about helping the family. Yeah.
Mhm.
Those are great values, I believe, taught at a very early age, about, giving back to your household, I'm sure you had to learn responsibility very early, and you had to manage yourself, you had
Hmm.
to manage money. So this grew you up very, very early, which I believe earned you the title of career queen at this point.
Yes.
So tell me
Yeah.
about the nickname. How did that come about, and what does it mean to you?
Wow, career queen is it's a great I feel it's a mantra and a concept, and I think we all can be career queens and career kings. And I remember when I first graduated from high school, working in the entertainment industry, working as the receptionist of Atlantic Records, and everyone used to tell me that if they got fired from this job, they couldn't work in entertainment, or they had to go work at another music industry company. So there's only like three in America. So
Mhm.
there was Sony, Warner, and Universal. So they felt stuck. They wanted to progress, but at the same time, they felt stuck. And for a while, that's how I felt as well. But then I realized that most of our skills are transferable. Um,
Mhm.
my two college degrees and the college degree that gave me a foot in the door many times in many places was my associate in paralegal studies. And then I have a bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus on international business. Well, let me tell you, all these companies need someone in legal. They need someone in business. Business is a great degree because they can put you anywhere. You can work in a bank, you can work in fashion, you can work in the entertainment industry. So again, I think it's about having an open mindset and not a closed mindset, and realizing that you can still have opportunities outside of one industry. Don't limit yourself to just one industry. Our skills are transferable.
Yeah, yeah. The skills are transferable. The formula is still the same in any job
Hmm.
setting. Absolutely. So your work focuses on educational equity and career readiness. And why are these issues so important today?
Now, there are so many things that when I first graduated from college, I had to learn, almost like when you drop a baby into the swimming pool. It's like sink or swim, kid. And I love that I've been able to become a mentor and teach students, besides outside of the classroom. Your subject is very important, but learning how to network is also very viable and a necessity. It's even more of a necessity if you do come from a poor background or if you're middle class. You're not born into all the networks as the affluent individuals are. So it's even more a necessity. And networking is a skill. It's not easy. It's constant having to explain to my students, to my mentees. The other necessity is also how to be cheerful in your work, how to survive the office politics. It's about how to not just survive, but also to thrive. And also, as your career grows, you also learn how not to sweat the small stuff.
Not as well as, yes, absolutely. And I think, what you're sharing clearly is that education is the way out. It's the equalizer in terms of just coming out of poverty. You know what I mean? So I love the illustration that you have given, and also, with my background, my parents migrated from the Caribbean to Canada when I was a little girl. With the promises that many immigrants, are very um, passionate about pursuing when they come to a new country. But it's all about starting from the bottom and then moving up. And I think there were a lot of lessons that I learned too, seeing my parents really work hard
Yes.
to achieve what they have. And now that I'm at this place where I've learned all those early lessons and I'm teaching my children those lessons, I'm at a place now where I refuse to dim my light and to apologize for how I got here. It was not easy. I'll tell you, as a single mother, raising three children, and people see, like you said, the glitz and the glamour, but they don't know the story that got there. So I really love how you illustrated resilience that way. So let's talk about your podcast, Linda Love Talks. I love that title. What have been the most memorable conversations that you've had, and how have they shaped your own perspective?
Wow, Linda Love Talks, just it says a lot. Linda Love Talks started because I have a medical condition called sarcoidosis. And at the time, sometimes with sarcoidosis, it closes up your throat and you're not able to
Mhm.
speak. So I started Linda Love Talks, barely speaking and almost like struggling to speak. So almost with a very raspy voice and incredible brain fog. And I was just praying, and this is where faith and God kind of and career all kind of intersect. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I wanna be able to talk, and I want to be able to have, a podcast that's the core of it is education, and it's there to educate, the world and the public. And I prayed to God, and I'm like, I really don't know if I'm doing this right, if I'm going in the right direction, and how am I supposed to get celebrities to come on the show? Because it's like, if you don't have a celebrity, no one cares to like be on your podcast. And I cried, and then I found this lady I will always be thankful for her, because she is a 3-time Emmy Award winner, and she is Miss Gabby Nattel. And I found her. She's a producer and a book author, and she's also an immigrant. She's from Argentina. And I found her, and I reached out to her team, emailed her. And as I did that, I prayed and I said to God, if I get this celebrity to come onto my podcast, this Emmy Award winner, if I get her on this podcast, then I know that I'm going in the right way, that I'm going in the right direction, because I feel, who's going to come to my show? Because, when you first start off, none of us are born knowing, none of us are born doing things and knowing it's going to succeed. It's more like trial and error and learning by fire sometimes too,
Yeah.
of what works and what doesn't work. And as I was praying, she replied back to me, and she was really excited to be on my podcast. And I was amazed, but she taught me so many lessons. And one of the lessons was that it doesn't matter how big of a star you are, or how big or small the podcast is. You just go
Yes.
there and give it your best, and
Mhm.
say yes to like all the opportunities that come your way, because that little show that might be little today might be really big in the future, and then you're attached to that success as well.
I love that. I love that. Um, Linda, many people facing adversity struggle to find hope. What practical advice would you offer someone who feels stuck today?
I think the first thing we do when we have trouble, and we all have those things. We have, a death in the family, a certain situation where you lose your job, luckily, and this is one of the things that I've learned through life and experience, is that whatever's going on, if it's bad, it's temporarily. It's
Mm.
temporary. So it's not going to last forever. Even financial hardships. Okay, well, you have to regroup, rebudget, see what other opportunities there is, but you will get out of debt. Your debt will not be forever. A death in the family is not easy to endure, but you will grieve, and with time, it helps. So I think that the best part about life is that if you're going through a wonderful time, you're going through success, enjoy it, be in the moment, because it's not forever, right? And if you're going through a bad situation or a bad time, also know that it's not forever. And I think within that, there's the hope. That's where you find the hope.
That's where you find the hope. So you're also an author, and
Yes.
congratulations. Tell us
Thank
about your
you.
upcoming collection, Resilience with Rhythm, and what
Well,
inspired you to write it.
yes. Well, resilience with rhythm. I've been writing poetry since I was 12 years old. And I used to write journals before I wrote poetry. But my mom was a little snoopy, and she would get into my journals and then she'd know what was going on. So in order for me to kind of have my own privacy and for her to not understand, I started writing poetry. And since then, I've been writing poetry for over 20 years. And I have really
Wow.
great news that Resilience with Rhythm will actually become a three-book volume. So there will be 3 volumes to the book. And I'll probably will publish one every year. And the first volume, which will be co-titled as Grit, will probably be published at the end of December.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. The three parts of an incredible collection of muse. So I'm excited. And
Yes.
where can people purchase the book or the
It
book?
will be it will be available on Amazon.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Leadership, I hear, is, it's a recurring theme in your work. So what qualities do you believe define an effective and compassionate leader?
Whew, that is really, really a great question. And let me tell you, I examine the leadership and the leaders I've had, and I've worked in about 10 industries. So I do have a lot of experience, work experience and industry experience. And most of us, when we look back, we take a look back, we look at our supervisors and our bosses. And I would
Mm-hmm.
tell you that most of us, we can count probably on one hand how many bosses we had that were good bosses or good people. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
number one, um, definitely hands down quality that a leader has to have is integrity. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't have integrity, you really don't have anything, and you don't have much of a leader. The truth speaking and learning how to do things correctly the first time and being fair at work is 80-90% of what work is about too. So it's really about integrity. It's also about leading from a position of um, almost, I think the best leaders are the leaders you can almost consider them as mentors as well. It's the boss that's not going to berate you in front of everyone. It's the boss that will give you praise in public, and it's the leader that if they have to call something to your attention, they do so privately and in a way that doesn't demean or hurt your spirit. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important in leadership. We need to bring that back into the United States. We have to start that with the highest office possible and learn, because believe it or not, people see our leaders and they think that that's the way they're supposed to act as well. Leaders aren't just leaders, whether they're political or they work in an industry or in a business. They are also like life leaders, and people just they 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 do as they see. So they're
Mm-hmm.
also, they want to copy that conduct and um that personality. So I think that's really important. A true leader also doesn't have to insult people or
Mm-hmm.
have to create division in any way. That's not what it's about. And lastly, a true leader thinks of themselves last. They understand why they're doing their job. And the best leaders are the ones that say, I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. I wanted to help the community, or
Mm-hmm.
they have a goal that's outside of themselves, that's not focused on just themselves.
Love it. What role has faith, perseverance, and lifelong learning played in your personal and professional success?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started college, it was literally one class at a time. I didn't like high school. I dropped out of high school, went to work full time during the day at Macy's, finished my high school diploma at night, but it became a lifelong commitment. You know, I earned my associate's degree, and then I continued, and then I continued again. And today, as you well know, I'm pursuing my doctorate degree in education at Northeastern University in Boston. And then some people who don't get it, you know, they ask me, why do you need all these fancy degrees? And my answer is simple, because opportunity has requirements. I didn't create those requirements. You know, employers did, government agencies did, corporate America did. The reality is that many leadership positions, executive roles, and higher paying careers, they require the advanced degrees. I could have said, I don't want another degree, but I also knew I couldn't build the life I wanted on a receptionist salary. You know, housing is expensive, healthcare is expensive, everything is expensive. And for working class families, education is often one of the few pathways to economic mobility. You know, education gave me choices, it gave me options, it gave me access to opportunities that previous generations in my family never had because of the lack of their education. But because of education, I was able to advance professionally. And because of education, I became part owner of a company and participated in its successful sale in 2017. And because of education, I've been able to help my parents financially. And one of my proudest accomplishments in wasn't my degree. It was the fact that I was able to buy my parents brand new vehicles and continue to do so for nearly 20 years. To me, the car, it's not just about the car, it's what it represents. And it represents breaking generational barriers.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. All right. So looking ahead now, what exciting projects or goals are on the horizon for you? I know you spoke about the amazing book series, but what else is happening for you?
Okay, so I love that I can finally be the go-to consultant. So I always have that availability, and I love that I get to choose who I work with, what CEO and what company, and that I no longer have to work for the machine. And what the machine I call is the huge conglomerates, but I love working with those mid to large businesses and those family owned businesses. And I love working with those group of individuals and companies because they're giving back to their community. You know, they get it. We are all here to, you know, make a living and to have a better community and to thrive all together. So I love working with them with regards to business strategy. Next year, I will have published my memoir, which
Nice.
the title and everything's is in the works. And then I'm also looking to turn that memoir into a movie and become a movie producer or co-producer. So I have a lot of goals. And what I always tell people, okay, if you get somewhere, okay, what's next? What's your next goal? So it's like the book is great, but as I'm typing this book out and I'm writing my memoir, the actors are popping in my head.
Mhm. Mhm. Who's
And
going
I'm
to play
like,
this role? Yes.
yes. And I'm like, oh my God, this really could be a great movie, you know, because most people don't have my story, you know, and there's a lot of famous people in my memoir and how I've come across them and my thoughts on them, and very famous, and a lot of politicians as well are in my book. So it's a really interesting story because it's like someone who grew up in a poor neighborhood of Orange, New Jersey, who ends up working in entertainment industry and meeting the who's who of the rap genre and some of the rock genre. You know, the girl who couldn't afford concert tickets now gets to meet these artists face to face and watch them listen, watch them sing and perform for the executives and so forth. So it's a lot of fun, and but there's a lot of growth in this book and in this memoir, because at the end of the story, I'm in there's lessons there that I'm giving to my niece and my nephew and the next generation, and that I'm giving to my mentees and to people who who think that because they're poor, because they're from working class, or because they're from a certain town or a certain city, that, they're never going to get anywhere, because that's what my thoughts were initially. I never thought I would leave Orange, New Jersey, but I've been able to travel all around the world, thanks to my work and to my education. And it's been a wonderful ride. And can't wait to see what else develops.
That's amazing. Well, that memoir sounds really juicy. I
It
can't wait to
is
find a copy of that. Yeah, lots of
definitely.
stories, I'm sure, coming out of that book. So, what legacy do you hope to leave through your work in education, leadership, and advocacy?
I think it's about equity, equality, how to make the world fairer, how to make the world safer. And it's also about choosing, I think, right from wrong. You can also have success and still keep your integrity and still keep believing in God too, and putting God in your in your daily life, and praying to God for options or for choices. And I'm very thankful to God, because in those times where I felt like, um, let's say being unemployed would last forever, those times that I felt like I was never going to have another car, those financial setbacks that can hit so hard, and so much harder when you're like working class. And it took 20 years, but I became middle class. It was not easy. And as we continue to grow, there's more wealth and more investment, and you learn. So for me, it's about equity and fairness. And I think learning how to be a fair coworker, and then learning to give back to your community.
That's beautiful. Linda, it's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you. I've learned a great deal about, what you've been able to do to, rewrite your life in such a beautiful way. And I love what you're doing to give back. The podcast, the book, series, the memoir, and the movie. I can't wait to see what happens with that. So I thank you for being here. And where can people reach out to you on social media to support what you do?
Absolutely. You can find me on all the most used social media platforms, which is Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And you can find me as Linda Love Talks. And my podcast is on YouTube and on Spotify.
Love it. Thank you so much again. And I want to thank all the viewers today for stopping by and listening to this inspirational conversation. Please reach out to Linda on her social media handles, and also be back for another transformational conversation. Remember, be informed, be empowered, and be transformed. I'll see you next time. God bless.